It's the mechanics of lust. For starters, you yourself are a phallus, inserting yourself into the warm pocket of automobile, sliding yourself into a space whose gentle contours accept your form as if they were made for it. Then you manipulate the hard, shiny key into the crack of the ignition and turn gently, feeling the body under you respond to your touch. Somewhere inside that body, pistons ram hard and fast, over and over, harder and faster, lubed by a slick lubricant, while the intake valves open themselves up with a greedy animal pleasure. A kind of ineffable exchange happens in the dark space under the smooth metal skin, something involving fluids and gases, and a mysterious four-stroke process.
What is going on?
Explosions are created in warm compressions. There are sparks. There are sparks being made by plugs, and my God, you feel it. Power. Before you know it, you're moving faster and hotter than you ever dreamed imaginable. A gleaming chrome ejaculation shot across the land, when suddenly you realize that one false thrust, one awkward jerk, would mean certain death. But still, against all reason, you open her up full throttle, because something tells you that the greater the danger, the greater the ecstasy. The closer you come to death, the more you'll feel alive. This sort of vehicular eroticism is the foundation of Ron Howard's 2013 film Rush. The based on real-life account of race car drivers James Hunt and Niki Lauda during the 1976 Formula One race season. Both drivers have that junky lust for automotive bliss, and both have dedicated their lives to the attainment and perpetuation of its transcendent orgasmic perfection. But that's where their apparent similarities end. Hunt, played by Chris Hemsworth, is the devilishly handsome wild man, the rock star race car driver whose life is fast both on and off the track. When not chasing his orgasmic rapture in a car, he's chasing it down in beautiful women, drugs and booze, and the liberating prospect of his own self-destruction. He flies across the terrain on a strategy built on flaring emotion and wild-eyed instinct, and everyone loves him for it. But by sharp contrast, his top competitor, Niki Lauda, played by Daniel Bruhl, has a face like a pissed-off rat. His races are run with an austere German intensity and a clear-minded determination that's near robotic. He's calm and calculated, and aside for his wife, everyone hates him for it. Their rivalry in the film is presented as if it were the stuff of legend. Two titans performing and doing battles in ways the rest of us mere mortals couldn't conceive of. And so therefore what transpires between them should be taken as lessons by us. This is the stuff of Ali and Frazier, Lakers and Celtics, Coke and Pepsi, Sparta and Athens, even Tom and Joe. And as in all rivalries of such magnitude, one competitor, we learn, is defined by the other. We learn as spectators of such epic clashes that we are not of ourselves. Rather, we are defined by who we fight and how we fight them. And though the battles may be vicious, as are the races between Hunt and Lauda, the deepest bonds are forged with those we set out to destroy, because we need them in order to exist. The film is well acted, the production design is spot on, never do the mid-70s sets and costuming seem cartoonish or overly conspicuous. It's tastefully photographed with a punchy aesthetic that recalls the time period without, again, feeling overly obvious. And Howard does a fine job in the driver's seat, employing a dual narrative structure that's in harmony with the tale he's telling. The stories of the respective drivers feel like a neck-and-neck car race. For instance, Hunt's love life pushes forward, Lauda is right behind him and overtakes him on the curve. Lauda has a setback in his life. In the next sequence, we see Hunt capitalize on it to take the lead. Their stories play against one another, scene for scene, individually, but always in constant relation to the other, just like their cars on the track. All told, it's an A-Hollywood production, which is what we've come to expect from Howard and his longtime collaborator, producer Brian Grazer. For over 20 years, they've been making films that are well done and classy. So why does this film seem to be evaporating from my brain even as I write this, a mere 12 hours after the final credits rolled? Does it have something to do with the fact that fast car eroticism hasn't been a factor in my life since I sold my 300Z way back when I was 18, and I've since been driving beaters and fuel-efficient commuter cars? Maybe. But the thing is, it's difficult for me to recall much about any of the Ron Howard films I've seen. I've watched almost all of them, and I think I could say that I've enjoyed almost all of them. But they somehow seem to vanish into thin air almost immediately afterward. Ron Howard, as we all know, is almost literally the biological child of Hollywood. Maybe it's that he knows his father figure too well. Maybe it's that he knows too well what it'll frown upon, and like the good son that he is, he sets out only to please it. His films are pleasant affirmations of a solidly middle-class value system, promises that all is orderly in the universe, that we're safe and sound and can feel assured that the astronaut will make it back home, that the missing girl will be found, that the fighter will win the prize fight, the nutty guy will be awarded for his genius, that the love affair with the mermaid will last forever, and that both race car drivers will have their day in the sun. Fair is fair, after all. But this sounds more like complaining than I intended it to be. Like I said, I always enjoy his films, probably for these very assurances. And to be sure, his films are always class act representations of the current state of the art and technique at the time of their respective productions. But as such, it's difficult to discern a clear voice, his voice, in the film. Maybe it's just me, my own prejudices and teen angst leftover hang-ups, but what I hear most clearly in his pictures is the voice of that faceless father figure institution we call Hollywood. Okay, let's be clear, this is a two sides of the coin kind of issue. On one hand, yeah, it feels like there's nothing incredibly distinctive to stun us out of our apathy. None of the singular artistic vision that we here on the cutting room value so much in our favorite films. But on the other hand, it could be said that Howard's simply doing a good job by serving the story being told, telling it with a kind of humility that states that the tale is what's most important and not the teller. That's admirable, to be sure, and most times it pays off. He is, after all, an Academy Award-winning filmmaker with a long list of pictures that have raked in boatloads of money. I don't know, is it wrong to wish that sweet little Opie would one day pierce his eyebrows, spike his hair green, tattoo his face, get filthy stinking drunk on the cheap vodka, and shove a big fat filthy middle finger right up Hollywood's cornhole? Am I the only one who wants to see Richie Cunningham drive us over the cliff just once?
You know, Max, leave it to Joe to, we're doing a show here on Ron Howard to bring up some interesting ideas and thoughts and questions on this man. Hey, really great job, Joe. An excellent intro to the 2013 film Rush, which we are about to talk about. Joe, I will say this. I love you comparing the Hunt and Lauda feud to Ali, Frazier, and Bird and Magic and so on and so forth. It's really interesting in these feuds how the two men, even though they're battling and they're fierce competitors, and they could be complete opposite people like Hunt and Lauda are, but they have this deep admiration and respect for one another.
Sure. Yeah, that was the most interesting thing part about the film, for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, they obviously by the end they had a full appreciation for one another.
Absolutely,
you know,
and just like Muhammad Ali had with Joe Frazier, and Magic Johnson had with Larry Bird. And I know we're speaking a different language to Max Quick here, but I mean, these sport rivalries are. I mean, they're huge, and there's a tremendous amount of respect for the with the competitors. I mean, it's
absolutely. Yeah, like you were saying, Larry Bird wouldn't be Larry Bird without Magic Johnson.
Right.
You know what I mean? And Ali wouldn't be Ali as much Ali without Frazier. You know, I mean, sports is just an easy analogy.
Absolutely, yeah, of course it is. And what's really interesting too about these two characters, particularly with Ron Howard films, it seems like this is like a constant in his film, that his two main characters are complete opposites of one another. I mean, this is something that we're going to see when we talk about Night Shift next week, when we do Night Shift in The Beautiful Mind. I mean, Winkler and Keaton are just polar opposites. It's something that he does again with Michael Keaton in Gung Ho, and the Keaton character is this workman type guy, and the Japanese dude is an office executive type, and they're just complete opposites. The dilemma, Frost Nixon, I mean, just polar opposites, getting together in almost all of his movies. And I mean, Parenthood, it's like everybody working off of one another in Parenthood are complete opposites, of one another. Like the brothers, Steve Martin and Tom Hulse, two totally different people. Rick Moranis and his wife are just at a point in the relationship where just just complete opposites. It's something to notice with this guy, and it's funny that he does that. And you bring up Ron Howard just maybe becoming the complete opposite of himself, and giving Hollywood the big middle finger.
I hear a theory coming up here. I hear a little bit of psychological theory you're working on here.
No, I mean, it's just all like, it's just something I've been thinking about. And you saying that at the end of your review of Rush is just really interesting. That perhaps that this is what we need to see that from Howard. That would be the ultimate.
We're not going to see that from Howard.
No, we won't see it.
It's nice to dream, though. It's really nice to dream, but we're never.
You know why, too, Adam? It's nice to dream that because, like Joe was saying in this intro, he makes these very safe, very very good looking. They sound great. They're well acted.
Class act Hollywood productions.
Yeah, exactly. Adam. And that's what you get from these like really safe, good movies. But you do tend to forget about them. They don't linger in your mind like a.
It was really hard for me to review this, Tom, for just that I couldn't figure out what it was because I always have a nice time watching his films.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I could not figure out what was irking me, and it was so obvious. It's the same thing that we talk about so often here. And the problem is, or not the problem, is that I guess the good thing is that all the time, most of the time when we're talking about movies here in the cutting room, we're talking about these directors with these such distinctive voices. You know what I mean? Like we're focusing on like the Harmony Korines and Herzog's always coming up.
Right.
Like we're always talking
and
about.
Don't forget Lars von Trier, Joe.
Von Trier. These are all guys who have such singular voices. So it took me a while to really like nail it down why I was having trouble with the guy whose films that I actually liked.
Right.
But like and nice, isn't Antichrist.
This is a guy that was a huge actor. I mean, he as a kid, and you're right, Joe, when you say that he was like, he's like the child of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to describe him. As soon as he's born, he's basically in front of a camera for the whole world to see, which is amazing. He's on the Andy Griffith Show. He does American Graffiti, which really catapults him into like where he's like a star in the adult world, and then you get the Happy Days run, which is like the biggest. This Happy Days is like one of the biggest sitcoms of all time. One of the biggest in the 70s, if not the biggest. Just a huge show. And this guy who is having this tremendous run with his acting just says, you know what? I want to direct movies. He wants to be a filmmaker. So he makes some wacky deal with Roger Corman to star in one of Corman's movies, as long as Corman produces a script that he wrote called Grand Theft Auto, which becomes Ron Howard's first official feature-length movie, and he begins this process of leaving the acting world and becoming a filmmaker, Joe. There's no doubt that the guy has, he has a passion.
Yeah, well, probably the most remarkable thing is that he didn't end up like most of the child stars, drug-addled.
He didn't doing
end
coke
up
with
like
Don Knotts or something.
Yeah, that's a testament.
Well, that's probably why. It's Don Knotts and Andy Griffith, man. You
Right.
grow up with those guys.
Right.
And that's why there will be no fingers in any cornholes.
That's true, Adam, and that's a really good point. And then, later on in Happy Days, his best friends are Henry Winkler and Tom Bosley.
Yep.
These guys are like the epitome of clean living, I think. They're just very kind, generous, nice people.
Sure.
Well, it was a different time in Hollywood for stars, especially child stars,
What, in the 60s and 70s?
Well, different than I guess a lot must have changed because all the 80s stars became friggin' train wrecks, right? But
yeah, pretty much
that's
all.
True. That was sort of the cutoff. You're right.
I wonder why. It's just this. It just changes so dramatically all of a sudden.
Yeah, he was closer to the 50s and 60s than the right.
Yeah.
I know Happy Days was in the 70s, but he was already 23
right.
or so.
You would think he's in his early 20s when Happy Days gets off the ground, right? Probably probably 2021. But yeah, Joe, when did does anybody know when the Andy Griffith Show started? I guess it was the early 60s, right?
boy. Yes,
Cook,
it was
your department, man.
Yeah, Cook. I knew you were here for a reason.
I think it was 1960.
Oh my God, dude! This guy since 1960, Joseph, on the Andy Griffith Show. He's been in your home. You know.
Well, he's been in Hollywood, man. I mean, that's amazing. It is amazing.
It is amazing. A half century, nonstop, Absolutely. In so many different ways. You know, from television to film.
So how did you feel about this film in particular, Tom?
I really actually enjoyed it. I loved the dude that played Nicky Lauda. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and he looked familiar to me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and then I realized that he was in one of my favorite films called The Educators, which is this really good Austrian, it's like this home invasion movie, this Austrian film, and it's really good, and he's in that movie. And I was like, what? I'm like, where the hell have I seen this guy?
What's that movie called?
The Educators.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, excellent film. Yeah, I highly recommend it.
I thought that dude was great, and I hadn't seen him that I know of.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I, listen, I'm not a big Hemsworth guy. You know, I don't watch Thor or whatever else the dude has been in.
Oh, that's who that was. I recognize him. I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
That just rung a bell for me too. I didn't.
Yeah, I was right. The Andy Griffith Show began in 1960 and went until 1968.
So what's the deal? You're a big Andy Griffith Show fan, Max?
Yeah, I own them all. I still watch them.
Max,
whenever the wife and I go up to the Central Coast, she always says, "Don't forget to pack an Andy."
It's funny, Max, that you're a fan of Andy Griffith. Because I've noticed on Facebook. There's something about I think the 60s and 70s sitcoms, right? That you have an adoration for?
Well, yeah, they were my babysitters. I was a latchkey kid. My mom was a nurse. I mean, all I was raised on was TV alone with a key around my neck.
Gotcha.
So, if Jack Tripper wasn't making my dinner, oh my God, I forgot who it is. Who's the big fat black dude in the red beret, Adam?
Fred Berry.
Fred Berry.
Fred Rerun Berry. Yeah, if Fred Rerun Berry wasn't, dancing with me in my living room.
Oh my God, that's
having more technical craziness.
We are, Adam. So listen, tell me about your experience with Rush. You're a sports guy, so I get the feeling that you might be able to enjoy something like this.
Actually, let me back that up for just a second.
Sure.
Because Max just mentioned Fred Rerun Berry from What's Happening.
I could totally get into any cast member from What's Happening. I'm down with it. I know the whole cast, know all their names.
Outstanding.
Yes.
In addition to my uncle having been an extra in an episode of What's Happening when he moved out to L.A. to pursue his acting career, his first gig.
Adam, do you know the episode?
All I know is that he was dancing in some party scene in the coffee shop.
Was it during the Big Earl and Little Earl era?
I have no idea if it was during the Big and/or Little Earl era. But the Fred Rerun Berry story, now I don't know if they still do this, but there was a time where you could throw $20 online at some washed up D-list celebrity, and then you could have them call somebody, wish them happy birthday or happy holiday. True service. So Max, I guess it was maybe for my birthday, had through this service arranged for Fred Berry to personally call me to wish me happy birthday.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So one day the call comes, and it's Fred Berry, and there he is, and it's him, all right, and he's reading the script that, whatever he has to read to wish me happy birthday, and then pretty much wrapped it up, and I wasn't going to let it in there. And so I started asking him a lot of questions, probing deep questions, asking about what's happening days, what's going on now, what's next for him. And he was completely caught off guard. He had he was not prepared for this. He couldn't roll with it. The best he could do is encourage me to come see him at his comedy show in North Hollywood.
That's genius. Holy cow.
So did you go? You went to his comedy show?
Cook, didn't you and I try to go at some point?
Yeah, first of all, I'm highly disappointed that you're about to tell me that neither one of you two idiots went to see that comedy show.
I think we tried to go. I remember driving over there.
We tried to see Jimmy J.J. Walker atop Vitello.
Yeah, and that's all well and good, but that's no Fred. He's no Fred Berry, Max. I mean, come on.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Walker's great. He's great, but we're talking about Fred Rerun Berry. Dude, the guy put the name, he changed his name to Fred Rerun Berry.
He did.
Yeah, legally. Talking about a different animal here, Max.
That's really embraced.
Shame on both of us, frankly.
Shame on both of us, Tom.
Now, let me ask you this, Max, because you are amazing at what you do with your channelings. I know you have some moves. Can you do a Fred Berry dance?
Absolutely, I can.
Dude, guys, I've seen it many times.
Oh my God! Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to convince Max off the air to hopefully put a little video together of him dancing like Fred Berry to coincide with this episode. We'll put up on the Facebook page. Max, you got to do that for everybody.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
What a jerk.
See, this is where I really miss. I wish we were in the same room together doing this stuff because.
Oh, here we go. Here we go, Max.
What?
He's gonna get all sentimental.
No. I'm just saying. I would love to see you do that, Max. That's friggin' great.
Well, listen. Before we start getting off topic here, I do want to see what Max thinks about Rush. Max, please. Tell us. I'm dying to hear it.
Were you trying to burp through that sentence?
No, not at all.
Okay. I did not want to see this movie at all. In fact, I rented it today, and I mean, I've had a lot of time. I haven't had a lot of time, actually. I've been so busy, but I was putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. I've had night shift for 3 weeks, but I was putting it off, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to just fucking sit down and watch this thing. I don't like sports. But then again, this is racing, and my great-granddad, Emil Snyder, who I knew, this is my mom's grandfather, he was a pitman for A.J. Foyt. So he was the guy who, when the race car pulled over in the pit, changed the tire, whatever, would hand the dude a beer. But at the Speedway in Missouri there. But once this thing got going, I was like, holy shit, I'm really locked into this thing. I thought it was...
Yeah.
I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was really engaging and gripping, and I was chewing on my fingernails. And I watched it with my friend Kari, and she came over and looked at it with me because she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I have to watch this movie," and we're both sitting there chewing our nails. But and this is, I guess, kind of a spoiler. I still don't know our deal with spoilers on the show, but she told me, so don't listen if you don't want to know, but she told me that initial trailers for this film, because I think this film might have been a bit of a flop, but she said that they totally give away, whether or not this was a true life event, which of course it was, but that they totally give away the fact that Rat Dude gets badly burned.
In the trailer?
In the trailer.
That's...
Yeah.
And so she already knew that going in. I had no idea.
And I didn't either. And
I didn't either.
And thankfully I didn't know, because it made the experience, 10 times better.
Right.
And go on, Max.
No, I just want to say that it's very true that Ron Howard obviously is a very capable filmmaker, but I don't know that the guy's ever made anything personal. Imagine if he made a movie about his dad, Rance, who I see all the time in Burbank. I see Rance almost every other day. Rance was just in Nebraska. But I got to say, it looked beautiful. It was shot well. And I just think he's that kind of guy where he will put your butt in the seats in that theater for that 2 hours, take you off your problems, and then you move on.
That's right.
It's not Gaspar Noé where you're walking out on all fours, bawling, having to sit through Irreversible a million times because you want to punish yourself and try to understand how the hell he made that film.
Max, but what's frustrating, the frustrating thing is that watching his movies, I mean, they look good, they feel good, obviously they're well acted. It's like I think he can take it to that next level. And it's frustrating after watching a few of his films.
Well, taking it to the next level isn't a technical
taking
it to the next level.
I'm talking about getting what Max said, and Max put it perfectly, making a personal film.
Well, yeah. So it's not technical. So it's not a leap that you can learn how to do it or like push it to learn the technique of it. It's something that's like it's a mental leap, you know, which is something entirely different because like Max said, he's a really capable, good filmmaker. But yeah, absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more.
Right. Hey, Max, it doesn't surprise me that you enjoyed this because when I was watching it, I was like, you know what? You know, the whole like staring death in the face, doing this kind of shit. I'm like, I really had a feeling that you might enjoy this movie. And listen, I'm with you on, you know, really avoiding this one. I mean, I have no interest in fucking watching car racing. I mean, it's friggin' retarded to me. But there was something different about this movie. You know, it dug a little bit deeper than say watching Tony Scott's Days of Thunder or whatever other car racing movie. I know Stallone made one. I can only imagine how awful that is.
Louis Frankenheimer, I think, started the thing with Grand Prix. But I think what might account for that quality, Tom, is I was listening to an interview of him, and he didn't even really know much about car racing when he went to go make this film. And what he basically said was, you know, what he was trying to do was, share what he was learning as he was learning it, which was kind of neat, because I think probably what pulls it through is this sense of curiosity and like this sense of wonder that somebody who might be embedded in the world of Formula One racing might not have had the same sort of approach to doing this, you know.
But I also think in many ways it is a very complex love story, because I really loved the twists and turns between the two dudes. And I just thought that scene at the hangar in the end was like fun. I didn't know the fate of the blonde guy, Thor. I didn't know his fate. I thought he was gonna get on the plane. The plane was gonna crash, and that's his irony. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
But you know, the fact that these were real guys, that they had this lifelong rivalry, but they still respected each other. I mean, this is all stuff that evolves through the film, and I thought it evolved very well.
Yeah, real well.
And what's fascinating is the fact that guy did get into that horrible accident, and still like came back quickly, and continued on through that season. I mean,
yeah, I think the film makes him come back quicker than he actually did in real life. Yeah, I did. It's funny watching an interview with the real life dude. The guy really nailed him.
Niki Lauda?
Yeah, both of them actually. But yeah, Niki Lauda is exactly
Dude, I didn't see interviews, Joe, but I was like going through some pictures of Lauda, and dude, this dude looked I mean,
they really did a good job getting that character.
And you're saying that even in speech, he did. I mean, it was similar.
Well, just his attitude. His attitude was right on. You know what I mean? Like you could just tell he's a prick. Yeah. I don't want to be around.
Adam, let me ask you this: are you a Lauda guy or a Hunt guy?
You mean who do I relate to?
Yeah, who was you? I mean, like if you're watching this movie, are you more into the Lauda character or the Hunt character?
I was more sympathetic towards the Hunt character.
Wow. What about you, Max?
I was not into Rat Dude until after he got burned, but that awesome scene where Thor beats the shit out of that reporter in honor of Rat Dude made me like Thor.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what about you, Joseph?
Oh, I feel like I have parts of both, but I think in the end, if I was going to run a race or drive a race or whatever the fuck they're doing, is I'd probably err on the side of poetry in my race as opposed to robotic precision.
It's so funny. I'm the only guy that likes Lauda better than the Hunt here.
He does have the funnier accent.
Dude, the guy's awesome. It's so funny. He is a robot, right, Joe? Like that character is so robotic. You know,
absolutely.
It's so ridiculous.
I usually relate to Thor because
So we should stop saying.
Because during the day I'm drinking, playing with with toys.
Dude, that guy partied, Max. Hunt.
That dude knew how to party.
He totally knew how to party. Oh my God! Hey guys, anything else on?
I didn't really hear what Adam thought about the movie. I think we broke up sort of.
Oh, that's right. Then he started to talk about Fred Berry. So
I started talking about Fred Berry. I was attempting some failed attempt at humor also, as to say that I really like Jason Patric and Sam Elliott, but I wasn't a fan of the chick in that film. But that was that other movie, Rush.
Oh, right.
Yeah, why did they call it Rush? I thought we have that Rush, Adam. That's our Rush, and now
Yes.
these fuckers are calling it Rush. I think that sucks. And where the fuck was Clint Howard? That sucked.
There was no Clint, nor was there a Rance.
Oh, so this is actually the first time that there is absolutely no sign of Clint Howard in one of Ron Howard.
I think it was. Oh man, I looked at this really pretty cool interview with Ron Howard today. It was riveting, let me tell you. And he said that I think it was this film. It was either this film or Beautiful Mind that he cut his father out. His father got cut out, which would have been pretty funny to do.
And Clint Howard's not in A Beautiful Mind, but you could hear his voice in the scene. And it was so funny because I've seen A Beautiful Mind a few times, and we're going to talk about that next week. But I watched A Beautiful Mind with the director's commentary this time. I figured, hey, what the hell? And I learned that Clint Howard wasn't in A Beautiful Mind. Nobody saw Clint Howard in A Beautiful Mind. And he said that people were upset. Like there is like a league of people out there that are expecting to see.
Well, that's like the YouTube commenter earlier today, who consciously searched the Human Centipede 2 review and then was listening to us talk about it and felt inclined to comment, "You guys are childish."
Nice.
Could you imagine?
Beautiful.
Like
awesome.
people get upset about the fucking craziest.
Hey, Tom, just so you know, by the way, I'm one of the guys in that membership of people that get disappointed when Clint Howard doesn't show up.
Well, in any film or just in the Ron Howard movies?
Just the Ron Howard films.
Right. Well,
although I believe any film is made better by Clint Howard.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a disappointment when he's not in a Ron Howard film.
Well, two things.
Adam is also the one who called us childish on our Human Centipede 2 review.
Two things on the Clint Howard thing. One is, I think the reason why he's not in Rush is because he shot this all in Europe, and it was like a big deal to go over there, to bring everybody over there. As a matter of fact, our guest on our next episode, who's his supervising sound editor, he didn't work on Rush because they shot it all over in Europe, and it was
That's a terrible excuse.
Well, it's
Clint Howard's allowed to be in Europe.
I don't actually, Max. I don't think he is. I'm pretty sure he's not.
Oh.
But the other thing I want to ask you guys, and Max, you got to know, isn't Clint Howard like the star of like some kind of a horror film series, like a movie? I think it's called The Ice Cream Man.
Ice Cream Man, yes. I bring up Ice Cream Man when I talk about Night Shift. Absolutely, it's a cult hit. But listen, for you listeners out there, if you need to experience Clint Howard in any way, shape, or form, all you have to do is go to YouTube and type The Clint Howard Show. That's all you need to do. Get really, really messed up and enjoy.
I don't know anything about Clint Howard, so you guys, like Billy says, I don't know anything you guys are talking about.
I don't really know Clint Howard. I don't really get excited about
He doesn't care about Clint Howard.
All right, guys. I'm signing off.
Gotta go. So, Adam, did you like the film?
Please answer the question.
Still haven't weighed in. Oh.
Keeping us in suspense.
Actually, okay, so the wife and I watched the film and liked it. You know, it was a good film. It was a solid Ron Howard film. I thought the performances were the best thing about the film. And but, you know, Max, you said it, and it's just that this is a movie that's clearly, while technically really, really, really good and great to look at, it was made with someone who clearly has no knowledge of the sport, who has no personal investment in it, is not passionate about it, and that to me completely translated. And none of those racing scenes were nearly as intense or electrifying as they should have been. And when I think like someone like what John Moore would have done with that movie, to use as an example, and he's not known as a great director, but if you look at some of the movies he directs, my God, the way he directs action is amazing. And I don't think that the characters were written strongly enough to carry that movie without also having the balance of electrifying racing. And so I was never really moved to really care that much. It was okay. That's all. It was a solid Ron Howard film, but, nothing you guys haven't already said. It just doesn't stick with you. Nothing
Adam,
remarkable about it.
You think that the guy who directed A Good Day to Die Hard would have been would have done this film better?
Adam knows that guy.
If you look at Behind Enemy Lines, look at that film.
Okay, all right.
Look at what he does with like jet fighting in that film, and for that Die Hard film, just look at those car chases. Those were pretty spectacular. Some great helicopter work. The guy knows how to make exciting special effect action kind of shots. Ron Howard doesn't, and I never felt like he had narration over all those car racing scenes. Like he had the color commentary, the sportscasters.
Right.
So I never got to just be
shut up,
in the car. I just want to be in the car and feel what it's like to be down in there with them, and I could never get there.
Well, I thought the pistons going off was pretty cool, and there were a few moments where you felt like you were in the car. Once all the narration shut the fuck up, and it just was score and tension. I just think the best sequence far and away was Rat Boy's fate.
Yeah.
I thought
totally. Yeah.
I thought the strongest moment in the movie actually was when he was explaining how he was able to recover from his injuries to Thor. Yeah. And just that great, because that was it. That explained it all. That's what you said. Joe, that's what you said. It's like they defined each other. They couldn't be as good as they were.
Yeah, that airplane, is that the airplane hangar scene?
Well, Thor did die, right? I mean, I believe.
He died of a heart attack when he was 45.
He partied his heart out. Yeah,
right. And the one thing that they do, too, that I wound up learning is they make it seem like Lauda, right? Was it like that he never raced again? Or is that what they were trying to convey to us? Or
no, he just pulled out of that one race.
Okay, all right. Because he did... No, because he did, I think, win a season again or something, I believe. Like, he wound up competing for a few more years. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like
Go ahead.
No, it wasn't like he completely walked away from Formula One racing.
No, I think they both did. But, in a Ron Howard movie, everything needs to package up nice and tidy at the end. So,
oh my God.
You got to just make sure everybody's got everything, It's almost like Ron Howard's like, okay, everybody, look around, please pick up your belongings, check the aisles for your
It's like leaving Max Cook's home.
Hey, listen, I got to tell you something now that I think about it. The female characters in this film were horribly underwritten and boring, and these women have to put up with these dudes. You had no idea why that chick married Thor, and then she winds up fucking Dick Burton, and it's like, huh? Get rid of the girls if you're not going to make them.
I agree with that 100%. There's there was, I could see kind of Lauda's wife. I could see that working just a little bit because he's such an awkward guy, and It amazes me that a woman would be into Niki Lauda.
I actually like that relationship.
Right.
Actually.
There was more substance there. But he's right. The other one, and listen, if you're going to take liberties with the story, you should just have this guy just banging different chicks all the time. What difference does it make? Why even give him the wife? Just skip over that whole part because it didn't even matter.
Hey, Joe, God forbid anything ever happened to your wife. But if she suddenly was in the kitchen and there was an explosion, and she wound up looking like Rat Boy, but it was your wife. Would you still be able to fuck her?
It's a great question.
That
might be the best question ever asked on this program.
I'm sorry, you guys are breaking up. Something's happening. Listen, man, I would love my wife. I probably love her more.
There's no doubt that you would love her. He's not asking if you would love her.
I have no idea. How can I answer that?
Dude, as long as the butt and the pussy and the butthole were clean and unburned, and or the legs, because you're a leg man. If that shit wasn't burned at all, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea how to answer that question. I would say yes, but yeah, I'd probably say yes. What about you? If your wife was horribly scarred and burned, how would you? You're not going to answer honestly because I don't think that. Well, I can't project it on you.
What are you talking about?
I don't think that you would be able to. You would you would stick around.
He's saying that
You
would flee.
you absolutely insult me, Joe. You absolutely.
He's saying you would get the hell out of there, Max.
That's horrible. No way.
Tom, what do you think? Just knowing Max, we kind of know him. We don't know him
I
fully.
think he absolutely would stick by his wife.
You do.
Absolutely.
Worship my wife.
Of course
And
he would. And Joe, that's kind of insulting that you said that.
Of course it's insulting. I'm fucking
Why would
around
you
with
say something like that?
Very long leash, so I would just enjoy looking at other women, you know, and I would make her feel as beautiful as I could. But if she had like a burn on her ass, I would just leave the panties on and just pull the if the burn was on the left side of her cheek, I just fuck her through her panties and just leave, you know, pull the panty aside on the right side and then leave fabric on the left side of the cheek, and it would be totally hot. But if it's like bald burn, like you're kind of like bald with like a mullet in the back and scalding on the forehead, I might have a tough time with that.
You can't. I mean, you listen. There's only so much you can ask of us. You know. I mean, I think eyebrows are important, right? If those are out of the marriage, then I don't know.
What about like the ear, Max? What like
a chewed up ear? That's fine as long as hair's over it. I don't have to look at it.
Right. So the ears, like they can pretty much burn away. Everything is fine with you.
Yeah, but you know what, guys? If the eyelids burned off and you're looking at
you can't have that. You can't have. You need eyelids in a
awful
marriage.
eyeballs just staring.
Oh my God.
And then you'd be responsible for putting those drops in because women can't put drops in their own eyes, and so then constantly you're having to wet down your lidless wife.
Max, Joe thought you were gonna pull a Tony Soprano, like when his guma gets burnt in the kitchen. He's like, look, I think I'm gonna go back to my wife now.
I'm gonna pay for everything. Don't worry about it. You no doctor bills, okay?
Well, what about me?
You're on your own.
I'm paraphrasing now, but I do remember him saying, "You'll pay for everything."
Yeah, he's gonna take care. He's like, everything is gonna be taken care of.
All the doctor bills, the hospital stay covered.
Fuck out of here. Oh, man. Hey, guys, thanks a lot for talking about Rush, man. We're going to wrap things up now. Max, Joe, Adam, thanks a lot. The Cutting Room Movie Podcast is brought to you by Christiana Productions and New Media Limited. The show is edited and co-produced by Joseph Schreck and produced by Thomas Detloff and Joe Christiana. You can follow us on Facebook at The Cutting Room Movie Podcast and follow me on Twitter, Thomas Detloff at TCRM Podcast. You can also check out Joe's film work at ChristianaProductions.com and Max's and Adam's Bowler Hat Productions and their Mimosa podcast show, MaxCookandTheCounselor.com. Music from The Cutting Room is done by the Zillatones. Check them out at www.thezillatones.com or search for the Zillatones at ReverbNation.com. We're going to be back next week. We're going to talk more Ron Howard. We're going to do Night Shift. We're going to do A Beautiful Mind. And we're also going to have special guest, sound editor, Anthony J. Ciccolini. Until then, we are over and we are out. Ciao.